Hi, we're back with another solo episode with your podcast host, me, Brandy, and I'm so excited to be back. This is a really powerful episode that we're just going to talk about moments in your lives, those powerful moments in your lives that have transformed who you are. One thing about my podcast that I love is that I have always been interested in other people's stories. I've always loved listening and hearing from other people of where they are today, but also kind of backtracking and understanding their life up into that moment. I think when you're able to get a grasp of somebody's life and what they've been through in the past and those moments that have really stuck with them, it really helps you to understand that person more, but I feel like it also helps you have more grace for that person. I think a lot of the times, especially nowadays, there's just so much going on in the world today, but I think if we had more grace for each other and really understanding where we have been in our lives, it makes it so much easier to connect and to really be more patient with that person, more understanding with that person. So that's one thing that I love about my podcast is the people that I've brought on and are going to bring on are people that have just amazing stories, stories that really have transformed their lives. And I love speaking with them because you can really tell the moments, the defining moments in their lives that have made them who they are. I think about David DeWitt's story of battling mental health and his specific stories that he brings to that podcast episode of really helping us understanding his family's life, how he was as a child, and how he's really breaking barriers with just speaking up and talking about mental health and making it less taboo and making it be more of a normalized thing to talk about. We've all struggled mentally in some capacity, in some way. But I think the ones that are breaking barriers in order to make it less of a thing and just more of a normal thing are the people that I think are amazing and the people that I love to talk to. I think we all have a story. We all have defining moments in our lives. I had a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago with a lady, and she brought up this book called The Power of Moments. Just hearing the title of the book really made me think about the power of moments and how we have all had defining moments in our lives and how we truly let those defining moments dictate which road we take. I have had some truly defining moments in my life. And one thing you guys have heard also is about my health journey of battling two rare blood disorders and how that has been over 15 plus years of my life. Those defining moments within my story from the beginning of being scared of the unknown, it taking forever for me to get a diagnosis, knowing how that feels, to the middle of my story of finally getting treatment and now hoping the treatment will work, me trying to figure out if I'm ever going to live a normal life. Those defining moments and those emotions that I've had from those moments really have moved me and transformed me and made me want to do and have a different life than I ever thought that I would have. I am very passionate now about helping anybody that is in that rare disease space because of my journey, because of those defining moments and how they have impacted me. When you are scared of the unknown and not knowing how your life will look, I wouldn't want anybody to be in that position that I've been in. So therefore, that defining moment in my life and the way that it made me feel has made me now want to speak up and speak out so that nobody else has to feel that way again. So I really just challenge you in this episode to think about defining moments in your lives. Some of them, of course, are going to be negative, but there are some great positive ones there as well. But what defining moments in your life have made you who you are today? Whether it's motherhood and having your first child, um, going to college and that experience. Maybe it's a relationship with a parent, a sibling. What defining moment has made you who you are? A lot of people on my podcast have amazing stories of those defining moments in their lives. And what I've loved about each story is you can kind of understand how they are who they are today. So after I pose that question to you of what are some defining moments in your lives, I think it's a good time to actually give you some pointers on what makes a defining moment, how to recognize those moments in your lives, and how to take those moments and turn them and make them a position where you can actually grow from them. So, if we talk about the defining moment in your life, first off, what makes it? What makes a defining moment can be anything that gives you clarity on a situation, on a decision, a realization of something in your life. Um, they often come from transitions. So, from endings to beginnings, unexpected change in your life. Maybe somebody gave you some incredible words of wisdom. There's one podcast that I listen to a lot called We Need to Talk. And it is an amazing podcast because at the end of every episode, he asks the guest, what is a defining conversation in your life and why? And a lot of people talk about defining conversations as in that was the moment that made them feel a certain way. It made them feel good or it made them realize something in their life. So that's another question that I pose to you is what is a defining conversation? What is an important conversation you've had with somebody? And how did that impact your life? I know we can probably all think of more than one, but one conversation I will say that I've had, and I've mentioned it before, is when I had a conversation with a VP of HR that I worked under one time, and how he said, to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that is where you will grow. That conversation and that one sentence I took with me, and it's still with me today. Being comfortable with the uncomfortable. It's not easy to do, but if you want to grow, you have to do something different within your life. And so that is one thing that I've taken with me. That was a conversation that has always stuck with me. I still see his face whenever he's saying it. I remember the feeling of how it hit me and the realization of knowing that it's okay to feel uncomfortable because that's where I'm growing. If I stay inside a box and stay comfortable with everything that I'm doing in life, I may not grow as much as I can grow. Some other types of defining moments could be loss, a grief. It could be an achievement that you've gotten. It could be a failure also. It could be being fired from your job or losing your job, and how that defining moment was a really hard moment within your life. But I think what's great about some of the failures within our lives is that we're able to take those failures and turn them around and in some way make them a positive. It could also be a relationship, beginning one or ending a relationship, and how that is a defining moment in your life because either you're starting a new journey with somebody or maybe you're ending one that needed to end so that you can be a better person and move on in your life. It could be an act of courage or faith in yourself. It could be you having so much faith in yourself that something was going to happen and something that you had prayed about and wanted to happen, and it actually happened. One thing that I feel like that makes a defining moment is the way you felt during that moment. So I ask you, how did you feel in that moment? It could be a small defining moment, it could be a very big one in your life, but how did you feel during that moment? And when you felt that way, is that something you wanted to feel again, or is that something you knew you never wanted to feel? Or maybe in your instance, you didn't want to feel it, but you also never wanted anybody else to feel the way that you have felt. those are defining moments, and those make and create a defining moment. I think it's very important to understand what makes a defining moment so you can actually start thinking about different moments within your own life. I think within all of our stories, those moments, those defining moments, really shape who we are. So, after understanding what makes a defining moment, I think we also have to recognize defining moments within that time. I think sometimes we have those moments and we don't recognize it until later, of how it really impacted you or how it made you feel. My mom was the last person on my podcast, and she has an amazing story of losing her parents at a young age, and how my dad's mom, my grandmother on my dad's side, stepped in to really help um, guide and lead her, and was a mother figure for her after losing her parents, and how that was a huge defining moment. And in her story, we talk about how parenting, even though she lost her parents at a young age, she had my grandmother to help parent her, but how parenting was something that she truly always wanted and was passionate about. She wanted to be a mom, and how she wanted to never want us to feel that the way that she felt as a child growing up and losing her parents at a young age. That defining moment truly impacted her in a way where it was a negative within her life. In her mind, moving forward, that will not happen when she has kids. I think those are beautiful moments within our lives, because to the listener that's listening and hearing that, they're really able to identify with you, but they're also able to have so much grace for you. And I hope that they're able to understand you more and understand why you may react to situations the way you may react, or understand why you love people the way you love them, or understand just why you are the way you are. Recognizing those moments in real time, I think, is amazing as well, because when you're able to recognize it, the shift, I feel like, can happen sooner. For me, I recognize that I had a health scare at the age of 19, 20 years old, and I knew that it was going to impact my life. I didn't know how much, but I knew that it was going to have an impact on my life. And even though I was scared of the unknown, I recognized in real time that this was going to be a hard time within my life. And I was going to have to really have a lot of faith, and I would need time. And that was one of the hardest parts for me that I struggled with, was knowing that time the timeline I had for my life was not the timeline that I was given or was going to be given at that time. And I think that is what was truly beautiful, was understanding that in that moment of my life and in that time of even before I got a diagnosis and going from doctor to doctor, getting bone marrow biopsy done over and over again, some awake, some asleep, I knew that was a defining moment in my life, and that it would truly impact the rest of my life. I remember after finally finding a doctor and starting to figure out treatment plan options, all of that, I remember being so frustrated with God. I remember just not understanding, why me? I felt like I had tried to do everything by the book. I felt like I was the type that really tried to be a good kid, a good person. Um, I was starting sophomore year of college. Why interrupt me at this time of my life to do this? That was how I felt in the moment. And that feeling was crushing. It was hard. It was hard for me to even get over. And I think I asked that question to God so much that this lady actually, I was sitting getting a blood transfusion, and she was sitting on the other side at Children's Hospital. Her kid was there getting a transfusion as well. And she looked at me and she answered my question. And she said, God is going to use you and your message in order to be a light and an impact for other people and to help them. And I remember being like, well, she never knew anything about me. She literally walked up to me randomly and said that. She never knew that I was asking that question. But that was a defining moment in my life. Again, we're going to have so many different defining moments in our lives. But that was when I knew, okay, there's more to this story than just me. Yeah, it was hard to go through that. Those were hard times for me. Thankfully, I'm in a better spot now, but in the beginning, I was just so frustrated. Um, it was hard. It was a hard time. I had to take medical leave from school, not knowing if I was going to be able to go back to college and finish and graduate. At that time in my life, the emotions that I felt were just so hard and frustrating, and many nights where I would just silently cry in bed, just frustrated and mad and not understanding my life. Those were defining moments for me because for me, health wise, up until then, I had been fine. I was totally fine. I went to the doctor once a year. Checkups were always great. I never had a problem up until then. But that defining moment changed me. And again, as I explain that moment of a lady walking up to me, I can see her face today. That is how important it was to me at the time and how important it still is to me, but how much it truly impacted my life. And I knew in that real time that her giving me those words from the Lord were words that I needed, but also words that would impact me later in life. And outside of that, I've birthed so many things within the health field that I've been able to do. And I'm very grateful and thankful to have those opportunities. But without those words of encouragement and wisdom in answering my question, I don't know how open I would have been to that. So I say, if you're trying to understand, and maybe you're there right now, maybe you are in a defining moment of your life and you don't know it. But I think it's great to understand and recognize those defining moments. You can't always recognize them in the moment, but it's great if you can, because then maybe journal them, write them down. Write down what someone said to you. Write down the day and the time that you had this impact within your life, negative or positive. I love journaling because I'm able to get things out of my head and on paper. I probably have too many sticky notes around my house of just things that I've thought of, too many journals and notebooks of things that I've just written down. I truly believe in journaling because I think it helps to get it on paper, and it's something about seeing those thoughts and things in your mind on paper and what they truly do for you. So if you are wanting to understand and recognize a defining moment in your life, write down what's happened to you in the past. Reflect on the past. Write down those defining moments. I love speaking to people and understanding their stories of life because not only does it help other people, but it helps you understand that person. And all of us have defining moments. And when I talk about a defining moment, all of us have those defining moments that show us what road we're going to take next. So whenever I picture this in my mind, when I see a defining moment, you're at a fork in the road. You've been straight this entire time. You can either turn left or you can turn right. That is the defining moment. How will you take that moment and have it impact your life to come? I think a beautiful way of doing that is, whether you're in that defining moment now or it's past, is sharing that story, writing it down, and maybe knowing that this is something other people need to know. But I do think that in sharing your story, there's a way to share where people understand without oversharing and giving them every detail of your story. So some things are still sacred to you and for you. And me always sharing about my health, there are things that I still don't share because those are sacred things for me and things that have impacted my life a great deal, but things that I think should stay sacred. And so, anybody on my podcast, I do believe that their stories are beautiful and they've given me so much to help other people. And I am so grateful for that. But whenever they are sharing their stories, one thing that I am always making sure that I protect is the sacredness of the story and making sure that the overall view of what they're trying to share still gets to the listener with keeping some of their privacy intact. But I think when you are having those defining moments, write them down. Whatever it is, I think it helps to reflect and connect the dots to figuring out and understanding maybe why you react to a situation you react to it. Maybe it's because something that's happened in the past. Um, I think those moments in your life really have made you who you are. And that is such a beautiful thing. Life is not always easy. Michelle Obama says it this way, not to get political. She just says it very well. One thing she teaches her two girls to do is to become okay with the boring moments in your life. I think that's so beautiful because life is hard and there are times within your life that you're not going to like and it's just going to look boring. But I think that's a beautiful thing that she teaches them because life will ebb and flow. There are things we'll learn about ourselves. We will have hard times. We will have great, amazing times. I think it's always important to celebrate small wins because when it's low and you are struggling, it's hard to stay positive. It's hard to see the positive side of things. The last thing that I really want to talk about with defining moments is the growth that comes from it. I think those moments within all of our lives help us to grow. If they're hard, negative things that have happened to us, if they're positive, wonderful things that have happened to us, they all help us grow. And I think it helps to help. I think it's great because it helps us have a sense of self awareness for ourselves. Maybe we're able to heal in different areas. Maybe we try something different and go to therapy. But I think those moments are like a turning point within your life. Like I said earlier, I think within that fork in the road, it helps to see which road are you going to take. Are you going to go left? Are you going to go right? And whatever options you have laid before you, that is where you grow. I always say, with me struggling with health issues, it was a blessing in disguise because it made me grow up so quickly in life. And I matured very quickly because of what I went through. And I love that because I was able to see life in a totally different way. I was more um, thankful for life. I didn't sweat the small stuff in my life. I learned so many lessons about how beautiful life can be and how I would I was thankful for the things I was taking for granted. Every moment, every day I would open my eyes the next morning. The first thing I said was thank you, Lord, for letting me see another day. And that was the first thing out of my life. That was the first thing out of my mouth every morning because I understood how I, at that time, was living day to day. Didn't know what life would hold. The days that I would have surgery and how those were scary moments for me, and knowing what life was going to be like for me. Um, so I think those defining moments grow us up. You have a stronger sense of awareness. You learn more about yourself, and you really learn how strong you are. I think as human beings, we are smarter than we think we are, and I think that is beautiful. A beautiful thing. is when we are able to see how brilliant we really are and how we can really contribute more or handle more than we think we can handle. And that's one thing from my story that I am very proud of is how strong I became, how tough I became, how mentally tough I became from that. I think it's beautiful. It's just definitely an eye opener. It's the self-awareness. It's the maturing and wanting to be better in life and not sweating the small stuff for going back to college and being able to graduate and how that graduating day was a huge win for me and my family because we didn't know if I would be able to do it at one point in my life. So I ask you this. Now you understand what makes a defining moment. Now you understand how to recognize that defining moment. The last thing is, how did that defining moment impact who you are today? What did it do for you? How did it make you a better person? Is it something you're still working through? Is it something that you may need help with in some way? Maybe you need to talk to a friend about it. What did you learn about yourself within that moment of your life? And maybe you're in a defining moment now. So I pose the question in this way. What do you want to learn about yourself through this defining moment? Who do you want to become from this moment? Personal growth is hard. It is not easy. But one thing that I love about personal growth is looking back on my life and seeing how far I've come. And I bet you've been there also. It is so beautiful to see how far you've come in life when in that moment you never thought that you could even make it past that moment, and you did. You woke up another day, you tried another day. That's beautiful. So, for anybody out there that needs encouragement, you're right where you're supposed to be, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Personal growth helps you to be a better person, but I think personal growth also helps you to have grace and identify with other people. It helps you to listen more and speak less. It helps you to stop fighting and to love more. Personal growth is a beautiful thing, and I think it helps us all move forward in life, and it's something that we all need are those tools of self-awareness. Those defining moments are tools of self-awareness of who you are, but it is very important to take those defining moments and turn them into a positive, no matter how negative the situation can be. Whether that positive is now you go to different classes and you speak and tell your story in order to help other people. Whatever it is, you can do it. I've been there. I'm so young, but I've been there and I understand how hard it can be. My mom always says she took lemons and made lemonade. How can you take that moment and turn it into a positive? I think that really shows just your mental strength, but it just shows how much you've grown. You are an amazing person. Whoever's listening to this, you are an amazing person. And don't ever let anybody tell you differently. You're here on earth today. You woke up today. You have another day to accomplish something within your life. There's this famous quote, I can't remember who it's by, but I love quotes, and quotes really push me within my life. I don't know how, but they do. And one quote is, do one thing every day that scares you. And I have lived by that. That quote, tied with the be comfortable with the uncomfortable, have really helped push me in my life and still does help push me within my life. But doing something that scares you, it could be small, it could be talking on the phone, it could be reaching out to somebody that's been on your mind. It could be something as small as that. And of course, it could be anything large. It could be having a conversation that you need to have with a loved one, um, a family member, whatever it is, do one thing every day that scares you. Those are defining personal moments in your lives. But one thing that I also thought about is when you have those defining personal moments in your life, most of my moments aren't just me. Most of those defining moments that I've had have other people within them, and that's beautiful. But I think one thing to think about with that is maybe you have been that moment for somebody else. Like I spoke about earlier, the lady that I've never met, still don't know her name, saw her once, can still see her face today, how she walked up to me and said, God is going to use you and your story in order to be a blessing and help other people. She is a defining moment in my life. She probably never knows it. I still don't know who she is. I've only seen her once and I can picture her and her kids still today. And I only saw them for a day. That's crazy. But think about that as well. You could be a defining moment in somebody else's story, and you never know who that is. You never know who you may be encouraging that day or blessing that day. So I want to leave you with this. Life isn't about avoiding pain or seeking perfection. It's about finding purpose in what shaped you. So I ask you today, what defining moments shaped you and made you who you are? As we continue on with the podcast, every Thursday we will have beautiful conversations and hear from amazing people who are willing to tell their stories with us. And in those stories, I challenge you to think of those defining moments within their stories and to understand how those stories have made them who they are. But I also think as humans, we all have relationships with each other. One thing we also have to make sure we always practice is giving each other grace. So as you listen to these stories, stories of resilience, people that have had defining moments that have truly made them who they are, have grace for them. Open your heart up and really just learn from them. I have people on my podcast so you can learn how to be a better person and to how to grow within your life. We're all here to grow. You've probably heard it said so many times, but relationships are very important, and they are, because that's how you grow as well. And these people on my podcast, these amazing humans, are relationships for you as well. Because in some ways, they're sharing their story in order to help you. I have an amazing girl that will be on the podcast soon. And I was talking to her, getting ready for her episode. And she was like, "Oh, I want to share." She said, "Because I want to help anybody that may be in my boat or may be in it later on." She was like, "Wherever I can share my story and my message, I want to do that." And that is what it's all about. Relationships don't always have to be where you're tied at the hip. Sometimes relationships are just you listening to this person on this podcast. The lady at the hospital that gave me that word of wisdom from the Lord is a relationship that I built. I don't need to have a close relationship with her. She did what she was supposed to do. That is the relationship that was needed for us. And she became a defining moment within my story. Just remember to recognize those defining moments, but also remember that you may be a defining moment in somebody else's story. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I I've just loved all the encouragement and words of wisdom I've heard so far. Um, please keep sending them. They really help boost my confidence and just really keep me moving forward on doing what I'm doing. I really hope it's touching and helping so many people out there. We've got some great episodes coming up. Remember, every Thursday morning, a new episode drops. We are on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. any other podcast platform you can find, we're there. I am really, truly wanting to grow this and to really just help other people because we are all here on this earth to help each other. And I think one way to do that is by telling our stories, which is a beautiful thing. So, subscribe on YouTube. Please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That helps as well with the podcast. I'm excited. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Until next time.